Audrey Hepburn, the timeless style icon in a famous scene of the masterpiece movie Breakfast at Tiffany's. The film, inspired by the homonymous novel conceived and written by American actor, screenwriter and playwright Truman Capote in 1958, was brought to the big screen just 3 years after its publication in 1961. Capote succeeds in the American intellectual and social field between the 1960s and 1970s as one of the most representative and controversial exponents. His first short stories, dating back to 1943-1945, show his unquestionable talents and opened the doors to the New York jet set, exclusive parties, interviews and films, but also loneliness, drugs, abandonment, self-harm and identity crisis. Capote is all this. Breakfast at Tiffany's, directed by Blake Edwards, won 2 Oscars. The main character, Holly Golightly, is a young girl who works as an escort to support herself. Building where she lives, she meets a writer who in turn is supported by another already married woman. A very profound bond develops between the two. However, the film and the book are extremely different. The characters and situation are repeated but completely revisited. Capote describes Holly as a femme fatale, like Marilyn. In fact, he wanted her to play the main character. Blake Edwards instead chose Audrey Hepburn for the role, who is completely different from what Capote desired. She gave life to a Miss Golightly with that jaunty and chic hair that is somewhat lacking in the book. Varjak, in the book, is the narrator. He tells in the first person the story with Holly, the girl who lives in his same building in New York. In fact, the film is set in 1960s New York, while the novel describes a story that happened in 1940s. In the film, Paul is supported by a married woman. In the book, Paul's lover does not exist. The novel begins when Joe shows a photo, who is in love with Holly, to Paul. The photo was taken by the Styrica resident and photographer Yunishi. This photo shows an African statuette that surprisingly looks like Holly Golightly. However, in the film, Joe, the owner of the bar, where several episodes of the story are set, is not there. The model Meg Whitewood, that only appears in the film during a party at Golightly's, is more present in the novel. For a time, they live together, and Capote reveals to the reader that the protagonist is bisexual through their relationship and conversations. Film, Holly never allows to her sexuality. In the book, Holly is expecting a child with José de Silva Pereira, a wealthy Latin American, and she decides to move in Brazil with him. She was charged with drug trafficking because of her relationship with Sally Tomato, a gangster detained in Sing Sing that she regularly visited every Tuesday. While in the film, consistent with her ambitions, she decides to live with the billionaire due to she wants to marry him, but here she's not pregnant. In the film, Paul Varjak is in love with Holly, and it is only in the final that she also reveals her feelings. It is the film's famous last scene, a passionate kiss under the rain with a cat, the apotheosis of romance. The novel's ending is more realistic, meaningful, and in line with Holly's philosophy of life. The main character leaves everyone, even Cat that has no name, because, like everything else, he does not belong to her. She simply and coldly leaves him on a pavement in Harlem, deciding to move in Brazil anyway. She makes Paul promise to look and take care of him. The writer will find him long time after, on the window of a flat, but he will never see her again. Instead, the film, as already mentioned, depicts the happy ending that the viewer desires. The woman never leaves. They find the cat embracing and kissing tenderly under the rain. Holly Golightly, a free, capricious and fickle woman, is a character that has become an icon of style and charm. She does not represent entirely the one described by Truman Capote in the book, in which she is much more cynical and brutal, and doubly the Hollywood of the past had to sweeten that material to bring it to the big screen. In fact, the novel written by Capote in 1958 caused a lot of mistrust from a Puritan part of American society, which could not accept the figures of a sexually emancipated geisha and a secretly homosexual writer. Certainly, in the book, more emphasis is placed on Ollie's wide and complex nature. The girl, due to a difficult childhood and early marriage, is very cynical, stubborn, prone to a disenchanted but, at the same time, poetic view of life and human relationships. She is aware of her charm on men. She uses it to get what she wants, despite being totally unaware of what she desires. Rather, she is aware that no man or person in general are able to give her the only thing she really needs, a sense of belonging to a place. For this reason, Ollie's relationship with her cat is fundamental. The protagonist feels that she is an animal with a wild soul that others cannot wait to tame or cage. However, in the last scene, she chooses to abandon the idea of love as a captivity. She chooses to leave behind the belief that to love and be loved, it is necessary to give up one's freedom, because the feelings she has for Paul are stronger than her fears. In my opinion, it is difficult to decree which is the best of the two endings. After all, they are complementary, although they are the reverse of each other. Holly's ambition is to be free. In both endings, she succeeds indeed. Hollywood has distorted and sweetened a little gem of American literature. In fact, the plots are similar, but considerably revised. Compared to the film, the novel provokes a sense of agitation. It is a rare book, as are the characters, the words, and the story. I decide to analyze these two literary and cinematic masterpieces because Breakfast at Tiffany's is not simply a novel from which a film was made, but one of those brilliant examples of a trend-setting cultural product. The movie poster was prophetic in stating that it would be eternally chic. The scene of Holly wearing the black sheath dress designed for her by Givenchy while she's eating a croissant in front of Tiffany's windows as New York is waking up is what many in fashion have always called the quintessence of elegance. As at Tiffany's is modern as was Truman, the author creates the figures of a female protagonist that does not belong to a Disney fairy tale. Independent, charismatic, free. She wants to have fun and climb in society. But above all, she's not seeking Prince Charming. This disruptive figure undermines the foundation of the American family model, imposing herself on the public, who are thunderstruck.